Welcome to Unity Inspired Living. Our community began in 1989 as a small worldwide Unity book study group, and we've continued the momentum as an ever-evolving spiritual community. Each Sunday, you will find dynamic thought leaders delivering inspiring messages and talented musicians sharing sound healing through their melody. Here, we embrace ancient spiritual traditions, universal truths, and emerging wisdom. Let's check out this Sunday message. We're so grateful you've joined us.
Welcome in, beloved souls. We're so grateful to be together this morning. My name is Amy Vanling, and I am in loving service as a spiritual director here at this exceptional community where our purpose is to be a safe environment for everyone to recognize their true essence, your true essence, the natural state which we arrive to this earth and come and inhabit this human outer appearance and experience. And we invite you here to be with your divine essence, our Christ consciousness, if you will. We have the opportunity to share this love, this authentic expression and inspiration with the world. And that's what we encourage everybody to do here. Come here, kind of fill up, and then share out. Our theme for April is inner balance, and today is Easter Sunday. And I always like to start Easter Sunday sort of with Good Friday, which is the crucifixion, which symbolizes the death of ego. For some people, it symbolizes the death of ego, that surrender of the false self that's attached to fear and separation and control, and represents sort of a sometimes painful, in a human experience, often painful, but necessary process of releasing, Jesus's choice to surrender even in the face of betrayal and suffering. And it teaches the power of that non-resistance and radical acceptance, which part of our releasing resistance last month sort of lends into this. And so it mirrors that inner crucifixion that we can go through when we face suffering, if you will, not as victims, but as opportunities for deep spiritual transformation. And so then, of course, today, the resurrection is the triumph, right, of Christ consciousness, the eternal divine self that exists beyond form. It's the soul's awakening, the awakening of the truth that we are not the body, we are not the mind, we are the eternal, the spirit, one with God. And so the rising from the tomb represents that emerging from limitations, right, of humanness and into the light of divine awareness. So it's the rebirth of our soul, and it can happen again and again and again. And that's the Easter message, is that resurrection isn't a one-time event. It's continual process of renewal and living in that presence that we're talking about this year, and allowing the mystery of life and love and spirit to blossom and bloom again and again and again. And Beverly's dress reminded me of this morning, like, yes, we're blossoming and blooming. So yeah, so we're just being with all of that today on Easter. It's a great day for reflection. And I am thrilled to be here this morning with Dr. Dennis Bradford. He is joining us today with the message, Outlook for Heaven. So this is going to be good and juicy. And I am so much looking forward to the beauty and wisdom and love that he will share with us today. There is also a workshop that will follow. And so join us for that. Dennis will talk a little bit more about that a little later. So thank you, Dennis, for saying yes and being with us this morning. We also have on our screen our beloved Beverly B, and she is sharing with us her glorious sound healing. And that it just absolutely pours from a divine vibration that flows through her. And we are so grateful, Beverly, for your sacred yes, your willingness to be here with us this morning on this Easter day. Thank you. Thank you. And we have also on our screen our beloved, sweet Jennifer. She is such a beautiful light in our community, and she's here to share our community announcements, our inspirational reading, and our prayer of plenitude this morning. So we welcome you into this space and consciousness. I know it's a live stream, but it's actually a space and consciousness that we create together. And I am so grateful for this co-creation. We send you greetings of love and virtual hugs and kisses, and we say thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. This is a sacred space. And so whether, we're in person or virtual, we can exchange energy and love with one another. So each time you see someone logging into the screen, just send some love that direction and we can feel it. We can feel that vibration, and it does ripple out, echo out into the planet. So thank you for that, making that choice. We want you to know that you are loved and you are valued, very valued, and we are thankful that you are here tuning in with us, tuning in and tuning within, I like to say. So we are going to open up now with our mission statement. And we invite you to just be with yourself, your centeredness, your heart, your vibrational flow, and tune into the space that we are creating here. Our mission is sort of our anchor, our compass. It's like, where are we going? Well, this is what we're about. Our mission is fostering love and wisdom, inspiring transformation, offering compassionate outreach, and embracing unity. And why we love a mission, and why I also think your own personal mission statement is important, is because it really keeps us kind of like what are those called on the bowling bumpers? It's kind of like, oh, if we start to sort of derail, it's like, oh wait, what's my mission again? Oh yeah, this is who I choose to be in the world. So that's why I love a mission statement. So we are going to open up with this is our space for a community song, and today we're not going to sing along, but we are going to feel along. And Beverly will take us places you have never been before. If you have not been with Beverly before, you're in for a treat today. So I'm going to hand the screen over and she is going to guide us. Thank you, beloved, for being with us.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Thank you, beloved Beverly. Beverly, for those of you who don't know, plays just a God download. It's nothing pre-planned, nothing that's ever been played before. It just comes through her and it's a gift for you in this very moment. So thank you, Beverly. I'm going to hand the screen over to Jennifer now. She has lots of good stuff for us. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Beverly. I was tuning into that and I just instantly saw this beautiful sunlit path with Easter eggs and bunnies and children laughing and having fun. And it was just, thank you so much. Happy Easter, everyone. And happy day of renewal as we continue to renew each and every day. So I will start off with just a few announcements for today and for the rest of April. So please join us for the workshop after the service with Dennis entitled Inner Balance May Not Be What You Think. All are welcome, and you will find the Zoom link on our homepage at www.unityinspiredliving.org. We look forward to join Dennis after the service from 11:30 to 12:30. All right, drum roll, please. A huge shout out of thanks to those who organized, orchestrated, implemented, and cleaned up the giant yard sale, which took place Friday and Saturday. Without David Johnston, Nancy Pimentel, Jan Knight, Kelly Turner, and Paul Turner, this event would not have been possible. Thanks also to Florence, Sheila, Luinda, Dave, Kathy, Pat, and Byron for helping out with pricing and keeping things flowing. It was a major undertaking and we were very successful. Yay! Thank you to all who took the time to be a part of this enormous project. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Bravo. We are looking for someone in our community interested in the healing arts to organize an in-person monthly healing night, which will begin later this spring. Please contact Jan or Nancy to find out more about this great opportunity. Do you have a little time during the month to connect with those in our community who would love a visit or a phone call? We invite you to join our outreach committee and join others in this very gratifying opportunity for service and connection with those in our community. Please contact Nancy or Jan. Monthly Meandering for April is a wonderful spring concert. The Trilogy Choral Concert, April 29th and 30th, right here in Brentwood. Please contact Pat McCulley for details if you would like to attend with a group from our community. And last but not least, we invite you to stay connected with all that is going on here at Unity Inspired Living by checking in on our website, www.unityinspiredliving.org, and our Facebook page, Unity Inspired Living, and also reading our weekly connection, which comes to your email weekly on Wednesdays. So thank you for keeping up with all of that. It's such a great way to stay connected. And now we're moving on to our inspirational reading, which is from Daily Word. And of course, the word is balance. My mind, body, and spirit are in balance. Balance is the key to living a whole, happy, and complete life. Every day I seek balance between work and family, between worldly responsibilities and relaxation. However, there are times I feel pulled in different directions at the same time. As I stop and focus, as I breathe into the moment, I am able to weigh my options and move forward mindfully and with intention. I affirm that my mind, body, and spirit are in synchrony with one another, and I realize that I am a whole and complete being. I create stability and order in my life by spending time meditating, enjoying family and friends, and participating in sports or hobbies. I find the beauty and symmetry in each moment. And so here's to us all finding balance as we really tune in to that generous, precious moment simply by breathing and focusing our attention. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was really beautiful. And I love the ending portion. I mean, I loved it all, but finding the beauty and symmetry and everything, because when you look, you will find that. Thank you for sharing all of that and the announcements and the gratitude. And thank you for bringing your heart to our messages this morning. We're grateful. Okay, I'm going to hand the screen back to Beverly. We're open, ready to receive.
That was beautiful. What's just coming right now is this. I was listening to the messages. This is usually how I call the birds, and they'll come chirp. And so, if you have an opportunity to go back to the recording of it, I want to encourage you to try it. Just play this sound, and they'll come. All right. You know, I'll share real quick. I did a sound healing concert on Zoom about 4 years ago, and it was one lady who was sitting in her car, and she was kind of freaking out a little bit because she was surrounded by birds because they came. And I actually have the video of it, so it, and it was like we're all connected. That's what the message was actually as I was sitting here listening. I was just told, just play that chirping sound on your piano. And then I got reminded of that instance where the birds just, she's just sitting in her car, like, just looking like, okay. But everything is sound. We're all connected. So it just made me happy. So I hope that made everyone happy too, just to think that we're just so connected to each other, all in love. Yeah, anyway, there you go.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that chirping and that the birds were there. I can see why. I can see why they would want to come and be near to the sound that you create that flows through you. Thank you so much. And just FYI, Beverly, I don't think that microphone in front of you is working. I think you're getting picked up from the iPad in front of you. So
Okay,
we can hear you, just letting you know that.
perfect.
uh, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful because we love to hear what sometimes is coming out and coming through during your message. So thank you.
Awesome.
Well, it's beautiful. It's like a lullaby. That's how I feel. I'm sure the birds felt the same way. I feel like it's an adult lullaby when you're playing. Thank you for that. So grateful, deeply grateful for you. Okay, we are going back to Jennifer, and she has our prayer of plenitude for us this morning. She's going to bring us into that space. Thank you so much, beloved.
Thank you. And thank you, Beverly. It's interesting. When I was hearing what you were describing as chirping, I felt like I was being tickled by spirit and angels. They were tickling me and saying, okay, like you were mentioning, Amy, about the bumpers. It was like the tickling was like the bumper reminding me to, oh, you can be in the flow. You can connect to the law of circulation. You can do this. So that's where I felt. And then it was like, oh, I got tickled and I was laughing, and the laughing released any tension. And then, so it was beautiful. Thank you. All right, so here we are. We have an opportunity to really tune into the law of circulation and remember that prosperous being that we are as we flow like a river. So let's start off with that beautiful breath of life, just awakening, encouraging, nurturing our beautiful souls that each and every one of us are. So inhaling and gently holding and pausing at the top. And then as you exhale, just release anything that isn't of who you are, the truth of who you are, this beautiful present moment of life, precious life. I invite you to join me now as we move into a space of oneness with spirit. We quiet our minds and open to the great realization of an abundant universe. We connect with an inner stillness that is grounded in the divine flow of giving and receiving. We practice gratitude for all that life gives us and accept that there is more coming our way. We align and operate from our divine nature to give freely from a compassionate heart to ourselves and others, assured we are never void. We set our intention to engage in right action that attracts opportunities to prosper. We are each a very grateful spirit, expanding in this human life. We're gratefully succeeding and stepping forward into greater good. And so it is. Thank you.
Yes, I say yes. We are stepping forward into greater good. Thank you for that. Um, Energizing, revitalizing. We're grateful. Okay, I'm going to hand the screen back to Beverly for the Beverly B Music Sound Healing Experience. Take us away.
I was thinking about the energizing bunny. I don't know why. It just came to my head. I don't know. Anyway. All right. I was just told that this was called Conversations with Heaven. Usually I don't get a name, but this was called Conversations with Heaven. There we go.
Wow, I love that. That's beautiful. It goes right with our talk title today, Outlook for Heaven. We're having
Okay.
Yeah. You didn't know that.
I was
Yeah.
focusing on inner balance. That's what I was. I looked at the topic and
Mm,
thought inner balance. So there you go.
yeah, there you go. Conversations with Heaven can be so peaceful. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you both, Jennifer and Beverly, for opening our space up this morning and just really bringing us into this attunement and alignment with Spirit. We are so grateful for your presence. Thank you for saying yes. We're sending you blessings and gratitude for
Thank
what
you.
you've
Peace
brought
and
to us,
blessings.
activating our space. Mwah. Peace and
Peace and
blessings.
blessings.
So much love. Okay, beautiful souls, we're ready to step into Outlook for Heaven today with Dr. Dennis Bradford. And um, he likes us to move right into opening up, and he can tell you a little bit about himself. He's pretty amazing human being, man, and I'm going to pray us in, and I'm going to hand the screen over to Dennis, and he will take us on a journey today. So I'm just going to move into this moment, invite you to take a breath into the stillness as we embrace the beauty of inner balance and uh, knowing that it anchors us in peace and clarity, giving thanks for the presence of Spirit always guiding us toward perfect harmony within ourselves and our world. And in this sacred space, in this Christ consciousness space, we affirm that balance flows through us as a natural expression of divine order. And we bless Dennis today with radiant love and deep gratitude, opening ourselves to receive the wisdom that he is here to share with us. And with hearts filled with thanksgiving, we release this word, trusting in the unfolding of the perfection of life. And so it is. Ashe, namaste. Amen. Thank you, Dennis. We're grateful. It's all yours.
What's your outlook for heaven? After sketching the big picture, permit me to try to suggest how to answer that question by answering 3 other questions related to it. First, what does that question mean? What is the subject matter of our inquiry? Second, why are most people confused about the answer? And third, what's the answer? What does the question mean? From your individual perspective, the question is, what's my outlook for heaven? In other words, what are the odds I'll live in heaven? That question is related to similar important questions such as, what am I? Who am I? How did I get here? What should I do and be? What will become of me? Do I have a realistic hope of winding up in heaven? In my view, which you should question since I'm not a sage, it's foolish to avoid asking and answering for yourself those so-called existential questions. What's the probability you'll end up enjoying a heavenly life? Nothing that follows is original. If there's anything of value in it, it's because I learned it from sages, those who master life and live well. The sages with the highest level of consciousness in my lifetime are David R. Hawkins and Eckhart Tolle, so I'll most frequently refer to their teachings. However, all teachings from all sages point the same way. What's the big picture? Without that fundamental orientation, some people will be psychologically blocked from understanding anything further. So let me address it. In this half hour or so talk, let's focus on thinking well. In the workshop, we'll have more time for concrete examples that follow from what I hope is our improved conceptual understanding. Right now, you're conscious, you're aware. That's indubitable. It's the fundamental fact about you. A sophisticated philosophical skeptic might be able to get you to doubt everything else. For example, it's possible to doubt that you have a body. It's possible to believe that the whole of one's experience of the world is nothing but a dream. It's possible to doubt that the past ever existed. It's possible to believe that one is insane, and so on. It's not possible, though, to doubt that there's consciousness now. That's certain. How can that be? That is worth wondering about. It benefits us to wonder. Well, there are two views, basically. One is that consciousness is somehow a byproduct of our brains, an epiphenomenon. And many scientists today hold that view. The other is that each of us who is conscious receives it as an emanation from being with a capital B that is the source of all life. There's only one consciousness on this view, not multiple consciousnesses. A helpful analogy is that our brains are like multiple television receivers. So there's only one emanation, the television signal, but it's received by multiple receivers. Plato, Plotinus, who, by the way, was the third great philosopher of the ancient Western tradition after Plato and Aristotle, and Tola, suggest the analogy to light from the sun. In a sense, each of us enjoys light that is an emanation from the sun. There's one source of light, but many who enjoy it. Asking about heaven is asking about living well, about being wise. How can we make the best of our situation as conscious beings? What are my prospects for doing that? That's what the question means. All right, second question. Why are most people confused about its answer? Obviously, it's impossible to understand the question without understanding the idea of heaven. What is heaven? If it's false that our brains, which are material objects, produce consciousness, and most people believe that view, that would explain why there's widespread confusion. Furthermore, many people rely only on unexamined ideas of time and of the self. If so, that's why they wind up attaching to a view that ignores a fundamental distinction that serious inquirers answered centuries ago. The cash value here is that most people seem to confuse immortal life with eternal life. The law of the excluded middle is that every judgment is either true or false. There's no middle ground. For example, the robe is brown is either true or false. No object or form or individual can be both brown and not brown simultaneously. In other words, something cannot have contradictory qualities. This is a fundamental principle of logic. Of course, it's incoherent to claim, to use another example, simultaneously, that 2 plus 3 is 5 is true, and also that 2 plus 3 is 5 is false. Incoherent thinking is worthless. Consider the judgment that a self is temporal. Either it's true or it's false. Which? Nearly everyone takes themselves to be temporal. If you doubt that, just ask them. Most will happily tell you, probably bore you doing it, where and when they were born, all about their childhood years, growing up, their teenage struggles and anxieties and rebellions, their love affairs, their careers, their families, and so on. They'll tell you their stories, their autobiographies, which typically span decades. To be temporal is just to exist in time. A continuant is a temporal form or object that exists at 2 or more consecutive times. As humans, we naturally take ourselves not only to exist in time, but also to be continuants. We understand ourselves to be continuants with beginnings, middles, and endings, future endings. We're not ended yet. Not only do you think that you're a continuant, but also you're attached to your life, aren't you? Since you haven't committed suicide, it's obvious that you're more attached to your life than not. You'd not only like it to continue, but you might well even like it to extend beyond the death of your personhood. Your personhood is your body mind, your self, your ego, your animated skin bag. The thought that your life will so extend is the idea of immortality, that your personhood will continue to exist temporally from now on. Obviously, then, the idea of immortal life requires time. If you really are an immortal person or self or ego or mind, you're temporal. There's no issue about that. If your person or self continues to exist after bodily death, it must be that you're a temporal continuant. What though if your person or self is essentially non-temporal? What if you lack essential existence in time at all? What if your essential nature is non-temporal? Superficially, that question seems senseless. Isn't it obvious that we're all continuants? Well, no. What's obvious is only that persons are continuants. Persons are temporal. Are we essentially separate persons? Please wonder about your essential nature. What if, in essence, you are more, perhaps much more, than just a person? Is that possible? Does that make any sense? Could you be in part temporal and in part non-temporal? Could you be essentially non-temporal and only superficially temporal? Yes, it's possible. And that's what sages teach. As Teilhard de Chardin put it, and I love this quotation, and by the way, so did my Zen teacher, uh, quote, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience," end quote. What if the scientifically popular view is backwards? Instead of being a secondary byproduct of our brains, what if consciousness, which emanates from being with a capital B, the source of all life, is our essential nature, and that it's our brains and bodies that are secondary? We should investigate this. Closed-minded people do as little serious thinking as possible. Wisdom requires open-mindedness and the courage to challenge not just other people's opinions, but our own. Thinking is a marvelous ability that is able to enhance our lives in becoming, which is incessant flux in multiple ways. However, incessant thinking is actually the mind's disease, dis-ease, because it obstructs our lives in being. Notice how we cling to incessant thinking, incessant judging, incessant conceptualizing, incessant evaluating. Notice how we cling to our favorite thoughts, even though we learn that they not infrequently fail us. To think is to separate, to divide, to classify, to conceptualize. Thinking is using concepts to separate. When all we do is think, we miss unity. Thinking cannot understand or apprehend unity. That's because all judgments, all thoughts, all conceptualizations, all opinions are only at best partial or perspectival. Until we drop all thinking, we obstruct ourselves from directly apprehending the big picture, from getting it without looking through a hierarchy of conceptual filters. Our levels of consciousness determine our thoughts. At each level, there are basic analogies that need to be reconceptualized to rise to a higher level of consciousness. Thoughts we think are true are our beliefs or opinions. Beliefs determine our perceptions, not the other way around, as a lot of people think. Beliefs determine how we perceive and experience the world. In that sense, the world is subjective. If we fail to question our fundamental analogies and stay stuck to familiar ones, our levels of consciousness can never improve. The cash value of that is that our lives can never get better. Getting stuck conceptually obstructs life's flow. We may want to blame other people or forces for our discontent, but we're unintentionally doing it to ourselves. It's like someone who has a hammer and thinks every challenge can be settled as if it were a nail. Hawkins emphasizes that since all thoughts are classificatory, divisive, dualistic, they could not be wholly true. That's why it's foolish to attach to cling to any particular thought. How could that be? If it's correct, should we want it to be correct? Here's why we should want it to be correct. Psychological suffering requires time. Presence, or the presence, or living wholly in the now, dissolves time. Therefore, presence dissolves suffering and dissatisfaction. Could Hawkins, Tola, and other sages be right about the foolishness of attaching to thoughts about past and future, about the suffering caused by clinging to thoughts about the past and about the future? The Mahayana Buddhist tradition is that we're already Buddhas, each one of us, only we don't realize it because compulsive, addictive thoughting obstructs its apprehension. The more thoughts or judgments we make about the past and future, the less we live in presence. The more we think, the more we get stuck in dissatisfaction. Separation creates suffering. Since to think is to separate, the more we think, the more we suffer. You don't need to think to walk across a room, or eat a peach, or drink a glass of water. As much as possible, let thinking subside. If you practice doing that and do it successfully, you'll learn that that's true. Why is it true? It's simple. Union reduces suffering or dissatisfaction. If we want to diminish suffering and more presence diminishes suffering, then we should deliberately practice letting go of attaching to all thoughts about the past and future since they undermine presence. The spiritual life is the life of surrendering to whatever is in the present moment. How? Well, there are different practices. Meditation is the classic way. The Buddha taught that it's impossible to live well without mastering meditation. He taught that there can be no wisdom for those who do not meditate. If so, the better we master the skill of meditation, the less suffering we experience. That's the practical takeaway of this theoretical discussion. Test it for yourself. Another way to put this is living well is not a matter of gaining or attaining anything else. We don't need more money or more fame or more sex or more distractions or more property or anything else to live well. We already are what we need to be to live well. There's nothing wrong with us right now. The task is simply to drop obstructions to our realizing our true or essential nature. As Hawkins puts it in his book, The Eye of the Eye, and I quote from page 245, quote, "The purpose of meditation is to transcend the mind," end quote. The mind is just a set of thoughts. The ego or egoic mind is the set of thoughts. Most people fail to understand that. Most people identify with their thoughts. And when we stay stuck in thoughts, when we think conceptually, we're unintentionally programming ourselves to be dissatisfied, to suffer. Hawkins concludes, quote, "The spiritual aspirant, therefore, is wise to detach from all opinions," end quote. That's from his book, page 257. Similarly, quote, "Spiritual work is essentially the letting go of attachments to thoughts," end quote. That's from his book, page 95. It's not the thoughts that are the problem. It's our attachment to the thoughts that are the problem. Ego just is a set of thoughts. The more we meditate well, the less egoic we become because the more thoughts we discard, let go of. The more we diminish egocentricity, the less delusive we become. The less delusive we become, the higher our level of consciousness. The higher our level of consciousness, the more open we are to being, which is truth or reality. The higher our level of consciousness, the more abiding freedom, joy, peace, and love we experience. That's the classic path to sagehood, to living well. Is there a way to determine for yourself if that view is correct? Yes. And it's simple in theory. Just drop all thoughts and find out for yourself. That's all you have to do. That's all that's required. Stop clinging. Stop resisting. Stop trying to control what is uncontrollable. The ego is resistance to reality. Doing that, even for an instant, just stepping out of the stream of thoughts for a moment is sufficient to catch a glimpse of being with a capital B. Ask yourself, what am I if I abstract from time? What am I right now if I let go of all thoughts about past and future? If there is no past or future, there's no contrast with the present moment, which then seems timeless or eternal. What are you if you stop identifying with your past self and stop hoping for fulfillment in the future for yourself? Tola wrote in The Power of Now, quote from page 72, "To be free of time is to be free of the psychological need of past for your identity and future for your fulfillment." What would be left if you disidentified with all thoughts? You'd be free of time. You'd be liberated. This is why living a goal-centered life is foolish, because all goals that you want to achieve are in the future. The future is not now. There's the separation that causes dissatisfaction right there. If you let go of all thoughts about past and future, you would be left. Your essential nature would be left. You'd be stripped of all secondary characteristics. You'd be pure awareness itself. You'd realize that you are the primordial I am, which is the biblical I am that I am. To realize that is to identify with formless, eternal being. That's what Hawkins calls the eternal subject with a capital S. It's the same divine essence we all have. Whenever you think of past or future, you create time. Whenever you stop thinking of past or future, time ceases. You've probably had spontaneous moments arise, perhaps unexpectedly, that seemed timeless. Those are glimpses into being. If you don't understand that, most people just let them go as interesting experiences and forget about them. Without thinking, there is no time. There just is. Another way to put this is to claim that essentially you are pure awareness, pure or formless consciousness. Pure awareness is pure context with no content. Being empty of content is being formless. Since formless consciousness is eternal or outside or beyond time, you are essentially eternal. If so, it's false that you are essentially a temporal person or body mind. If so, the death of the person is not real death at all. If you like religious talk, you could say that you're God disguised as a human. Your essence is life itself with a capital L. Since life is eternal, so is your essence, although your personhood is not. Realizing, not just thinking that for yourself, is living in heaven, if you live from that perspective in becoming. That's what Jesus called the kingdom of God. Failing to realize it is failing to live in heaven. If time is ultimately, in that sense, a delusion, and you fail to realize that, you'll never find lasting fulfillment. You'll never make it to heaven. In the everyday world of becoming, forms ceaselessly arise and disappear. Nothing abides. That's why the satisfaction that comes from attaining, grasping, or attaching to forms is only ever at best temporary. In becoming, nothing abides. To open to being is to open to timelessness, to eternity. Since being is formless, to the thinking mind, it is emptiness, unlimited spaciousness. By way of contrast, to the non-thinking or awakened mind, it is fullness. That's what presence is. Living in being is what heaven is. Living with that realization is living well, living a heavenly life. By way of contrast, living stuck only in becoming is living poorly, living a hellish life. In other words, heaven and hell have nothing to do with immortality. Heaven and hell are right here, right now. There's no waiting required. Third sub-question and final one. What's the answer? What's your outlook for heaven? You can take a guess yourself. To paraphrase Meister Eckhart, you'll never see heaven like you see a cow. Jesus famously said, when asked when presence will come by a Pharisee, when will the presence of God come? He said, and I quote from Luke chapter 17, verse 21, you cannot tell by observation when the kingdom of God comes. There will be no saying, look, here it is, or there it is. For in fact, the kingdom of God is among you, end quote. It doesn't make any sense to talk about presence or the kingdom of God as coming or going. Presence is eternal. It's timeless. It's outside time. Since doings are always temporal and thinking is a kind of doing, thinking is temporal. How could what is temporal apprehend what is eternal? That's a good question. The spiritual life, then, is not essentially about doing anything. It's certainly not about thinking. It's about the absence of doing. It's about being. If so, thinking obstructs presence. Either drop all thoughts to rise above thinking or don't. Although it's possible to go back and forth, either you're living a hellish life right now or a heavenly life. Since we all want to live well, we all want a heavenly life, evaluating our own level of consciousness or quality of life for ourselves can be tricky because we can become self-deluded. It's possible to experience presence without realizing it. And it's also possible to think you've experienced presence even though you haven't. In other words, mistakes are possible. That's why traditionally a sage needs to test you to tell. If you don't know any sages who know you, there are two good ways that I've found to determine for yourself if you're unsure. In other words, what your level of consciousness is predominantly. If you're interested, email me and I'll send you a PDF at no cost that briefly explains that. My email is dennis@endfearfast.com, DENNIS at ENDFEARFAST.com, Dennis@endfearfast. Just, excuse me, ask me for the PDF. One involves Hawkins's map of the levels of consciousness, and the other involves a psychological assay by an awakened psychologist. Frankly, and this was the bad news, your odds of living in presence are not good, at least right now. According to Hawkins's map of the energy levels of consciousness, currently less than about 0.5% of human beings live well. That's pretty discouraging. But it doesn't have to be that way. If you fully dedicate yourself to dropping thoughts, it's possible to change the odds. The task is simple, but it's very difficult. It need not take years of training either. It doesn't take any time to release thoughts. Dropping takes no time. You don't have to wait for years or future lifetimes or anything like that. That's a lot of baloney. However, allowing your consciousness to raise just a little will improve the quality of your life, even if you never cross the threshold of sagehood. I can tell you that from my own experience. Still, without a radical shift in your level of consciousness, it's impossible to become a sage. That's the bad news. Most people never disidentify with their thoughts. As Tola put it in A New Earth, quote, page 17, the more you make your thoughts, beliefs, into your identity, the more cut off you are from the spiritual dimension within yourself. In other words, whether they are religious or political or any other kind, the more fanatically attached fanatics are to their beliefs, the true believers, the more hellish their lives are. If you're unhappy now and leading a hellish life, will you become happy in the future? Probably not. Sages such as Thich Nhat Hanh and David Hawkins explicitly make that point. That's not coming from me. Why is that? Again, our state of consciousness determines the world in which we live. So unless that level rises, nothing really important or significant about your particular situation can improve. It's impossible. Tola writes in The Power of Now, quote, page 191, any changes that you make, whether they have to do with your work, your relationships, or your surroundings, are ultimately only cosmetic, unless they arise out of a change in your level of consciousness, end quote. The egoic dysfunction and suffering of the present moment will tend to continue unless you commit yourself to doing something about it. Egoic identification with form blocks, prevents, obstructs living well. So why not drop all such identifications? As Tola puts it in A New Earth, page 21, quote, the single most vital step on your journey toward enlightenment is this: learn to disidentify from your mind, end quote. Why is that? Whatever you identify with turns into ego. So stop identifying with all forms and identify only with being. Stop incessant doing. Freedom, liberation is possible right now by opening to being or presence. The good news is that such shifts from fanaticism to presence do occur. Sages do exist. Furthermore, sometimes such shifts occur even spontaneously without any kind of training whatsoever. Although when that happens, they may be very disorienting and so ignored. What we can do is to practice dropping thought continually, to practice surrendering content continually. That opens context. That's an attempt to prepare ourselves should such an opportunity arise. It may never, but it just might. A Course in Miracles teaches that, quote, nothing real can be threatened, end quote. What is real is being, our true nature. It also teaches, quote, nothing unreal exists, end quote. What is ultimately unreal is your separate personhood. Quote, herein lies the peace of God, end quote. Dropping attachment to the thought that you are a separate self, which all sages recommend, is opening to union, which is non-separation or presence or love. That's why God or being is love. I wrote a book on that, by the way. Oh, before I go, let me offer you something in addition to that PDF. I'll give anyone listening to this who's still listening to it a free telephone conversation. Just we'll get a mutually agreed upon time. I'll give you a call. You can ask me any question you want about anything. I'll do my best to answer. And usually such calls take between 2 and 50 minutes, and we'll just chat. If you want to chat, it's free, no obligation, no cost. I'll call you. So that's easy. God is love. That's union. That's where that idea that God is love comes from. So are you. May you realize your true nature.
Thank you, Dennis. Wow. That's a lot to digest, right, everybody? I know Carol usually takes a lot of notes and she says, I'm just going to absorb this one. I understand that. Luinda says, very wise words, I'd say. Living in the present moment, letting go of thought. You explain it well, Dennis. Yes, I do appreciate the way Dennis always articulates some um, sometimes abstract sort of concepts and brings them down to digestible pieces. So thank you, Dennis. You said a lot to chew on here today. What's something I wrote down that I like? Pure awareness. Did you say pure awareness is empty of content? I believe I was also trying to write, Carol, and it was, there was a lot to write down. Yeah. Ego is resistance or reality. Yeah. Good reminder that if we are feeling a lot of resistance to what is, that's usually ego sort of saying, "Oh, I'm here." Um, asking about heaven is asking about living well. Yes, I like that. Yes, and we're talking about heaven, we're talking about living well because we're talking about the here and now. Um, what else did I write down? Any other thoughts right now? We're going to, we should wrap up here so we can move into the workshop. And remember that if you attend the workshop, you can have a call with Dennis and he'll make that available to you. So pop into the workshop. I did take quite a few notes here, but I know that Dennis is going to really take the deep dive in the workshop. So we're going to take a moment to, I see, Jan, you made a reply here, but I don't know why. Oh, Jan says, I wrote, incessant thinking obstructs our essential being. Yes. I don't know why I didn't see that. Oh, goodness. A bunch of messages came in on the thread. Bob says, thank you for your insight. Paris says, amazing. I feel I need to listen a bunch more times. Yes, I was thinking that too. This is definitely a talk to re-listen to. And I highly suggest going into the workshop if you're able to, because I know Dennis will unpack a lot of this there. uh, yeah, okay, Jan, I just saw that. I wrote, incessant thinking obstructs our essential being. Yes, Sonia says, all of April's talks have been very deep, very close. Yes. Well, inner balance is essential piece to living well, and that is where the kingdom of heaven lies. So, okay, everybody, let's take a few minutes to hydrate and nourish, and perhaps get a pencil, a pad. Dennis, anything else anybody should know to bring to the workshop? Themselves, of course.
Just an open mind. And if you have any questions, I'm going to, in terms of inner balance, a lot of people have misconceptions about what that means, and I want to address that up front. So I'll do that. But this was pretty theoretical. But again, the reason that I do this is because that orientation, if you lack it, blocks people, at least people like me, from understanding what's following. Unless I know the context of something, I'm just blocked from understanding it. So that's why I wanted to focus on the context here. But in the workshop, any practical questions, including about uh, what the right way to balance is, uh, should be concrete examples that follow from the framework, the conceptual framework that I just laid out. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Beautiful. Yes. Um, I know there will be questions and there will be a lot to discuss in the workshop. So everybody, I will drop the link for the workshop in the chat here on the Facebook live stream. Also remember that it's on our homepage of the website, unityinspiredliving.org. So you'll see a picture of Beverly and Dennis and then the link right into the workshop. And also remember that everybody is welcome. So perhaps there's somebody you can think of right now who might want to spend an hour in the workshop from 11:30 to 12:30 Pacific time. So we're going to close with our prayer of divine awakening. And I invite everybody to really be with that divine awakening, that soul's awakening, especially today as we take this Easter day to reflect on the resurrection, the renewal. Yeah, renewal. So let me share my screen with you at this moment, and we can. There it is. Claim this prayer for your day, for your life. It's a new day, a beautiful day, a new beginning. I embrace this day with new eyes, an open heart, and expansive mind. I choose my vibrational frequency deliberately and consciously, harmonizing with life's events. I am receptive to source energy, divine guidance, and wisdom available to me at all times. I commit to serve unconditional love fully and completely. I move forward in a state of appreciation, an extension of the one magnificent power and presence. I am sovereign, whole, and free, claiming dominion over my life as I go in peace and awaken to my divinity. And so it is. Thank you for being with us today. We are so grateful for this energetic exchange and for your presence. I wish you many blessings and remind you to shine on, divine beings of brilliance. You are bright, bright, bright. Thank you, Dennis, for being with us today. We are so deeply grateful for you. And everybody, you have about 15 minutes and then pop there into the workshop where inner balance may not be what you think it is. So thank you, Dennis. We're grateful. See you in the workshop, everybody. Mwah. Easter blessings.